Hi everyone, and welcome back to another podcast episode of A Better You. I'm your host, Fernanda Ramirez, and welcome back. I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in a while, so I'm excited to dive into today's topic. There's a lot of reasons why I decided that I wanted to talk about this topic today, or why I thought it was important or something relevant and worth speaking about, and that is how to create a rich inner world. We're going to be talking about what it means to have an inner world. I feel like this topic is very important to me, as recently I feel like we've been talking a lot about self-love. And also, I feel like I've been in a very introspective place, maybe while doing a lot of solo traveling, after getting out of a relationship, after spending more time alone. I feel like I've been spending a lot of time with myself and getting really clear on how I feel internally, my emotions, my thoughts, whatever, and even expressing them outwardly to you guys. I feel like I get a lot of comments on people calling me very articulate, which is such a compliment and probably the best compliment that I can ever ask for and that I can ever get. And I think that skill comes from being introspective and taking the time to understand yourself and then being able to deliver it clearly and having good communication skills and whatever. There's so many things that go into that compliment, but I kind of want to talk about what this all means to me, how I further that relationship with myself and how I choose to express that and how I feel like you guys can develop this yourself and kind of work on your own inner world and make it a place where you feel inspired and happy and excited and energized and overall just feeling good within yourself, not needing anything external and just feeling content with who you are inside. We're also going to talk about ways that you can express this, like different creative outlets, ways that you can intake new knowledge and just be a curious human as we grow older, as well as what I personally do to cultivate a happy mind and just like a mind that I enjoy being in. So yeah, there's so many things to talk about, so many things to discuss. Let me tell you about what's going on in my life. For starters, last weekend was my friend's birthday, Mayala. She is one of my bestest friends. She's one of the girls that I've been traveling a lot with this year. Usually her vibe is very sultry and she's a Scorpio, so I feel like she really taps into that kind of like black and like red and kind of mysterious theme. And I'm usually a very like light, pastel, Pinterest girly, one might say, aesthetic. And it was kind of funny because this year I feel like we swapped birthday themes. I went for like a very red and black, a little bit more mysterious vibe, and she went for the whimsical inner child theme. And so it was super fun to swap kind of aesthetics, but I wanted to talk about her birthday party because it was so much fun. She turned 23 years old, and for this birthday, she kind of wanted like a whimsical inner child birthday. And I feel like I haven't seen anyone do this kind of theme, at least not recently, or not that I can think of. The Pinterest board was full of streamers and pastel and like messy cakes and crafts and just like sprinkles everywhere and iridescent ribbon, star cutouts. It almost looked like a kindergarten craft room. She sent us all this Pinterest board as well as like a little DIY invitation. This is really relevant in my mind, obviously, because it just happened this weekend. And today I was making a little short form like TikTok for it. So if you want to head over to my TikTok, there's a little mini vlog of it. All my friends went thrifting right before that to get like colorful jewelry and thin little scarves. I wore like a little lace, almost like slip dress tank top, as well as a skirt that was very like pastel and flowy with my favorite little like cream heels with pink bows on it, and I wore a little bow up in my hair. I feel like it's especially easy to tap into this inner child mood or feeling when I'm with these friends because I have known them since I was like 10 years old. And it's just kind of funny because I feel like when I meet people now, not always, but if I meet them through work, they might get the first impression of me being one that is more mature, or maybe it takes a minute to like open up or for them to even understand your inner world. But because all of these friends, I know them very well. I know who they are internally. Like we've been together through so many phases of our like teen years and like early 20s that when we all want to like tap into this like inner child, like it's so easy because it feels like I was just 14 with them. So anyways, it was so much fun and I feel like such a good birthday idea for turning 23. And it's funny because I saw another girl that's a similar age to mine and her cake basically said a joke about being old. And though I know it's all a joke, it's all fun and games, we joke about getting older, I feel like I like that there's two different perspectives you can have on aging. Like one, you could make fun of the fact that you're getting old, or you could genuinely feel like you're getting old. You feel every year the time is ticking, you're getting older, you can't be this youthful self anymore, you feel the need to mature, or you feel the need to act older, or like get your shit together, get your life together. Or you can look at it as like, I'm the youngest I'll ever be, let's just enjoy the fact that we're with our friends and we're young, and like any age during your 20s is still a young age. But it's just funny how the contrast between the two people that have different perspectives on aging or their birthdays and how they choose to celebrate. Obviously it's not that deep, I'm just comparing the two. My friend had her birthday cake, which was like a ice cream cake, and it actually was just melting. And I could also see how this would give me a headache. Like if I was trying to take photos for my birthday and my cake was melting, I would be like so distraught. But instead my friend was like so okay with it, and in fact embraced the messiness of it, and was just like sprinkling sprinkles all over it, like so messy. It kind of looked like the Max and Ruby cake, if anyone knows what I'm talking about. And she had like a bunch of different types of candles. It was just so wholesome. Honestly, I loved that she embraced the messiness of it, and it didn't need to be perfect to match the aesthetic or to make her happy. But anyways, that was super fun. That was just like a little bit of a side story, but I feel like it's kind of, it makes you think a little bit of how you choose to age or how you want to celebrate your birthday. And also I think there is beauty in the messiness and in aging and making light of it and not feeling old, rather feeling like life is really just beginning. And maybe it's a little bit of a rebirth for her. I mean, every birthday should kind of feel like a rebirth. I feel like I definitely feel rebirthed after my past 23rd birthday. But anyways, I guess that brings me to why we're talking about an inner world. As you guys know, I've been single now for 2 months. I feel like it's whatever. It's going to keep coming up. Obviously, it's very relevant in my life right now. In the past 2 months, obviously, I've had people come talk to me, ask me for my number, ask me for whatever. It's been interesting to myself to think about how I would introduce myself to a new person when they're asking, like, what do you like to do for fun? What do you like? What do you enjoy? What's your favorite music? If I told them, I don't know, I like to journal. What if they said, what do you like to journal about? Obviously, all of these questions and all of these answers, it doesn't matter what your answer is, because if it's true to you, that's all that matters. You shouldn't try to like answer thinking about how you're going to be perceived. But the fact that these questions are even being asked in the first place, I feel like is making me look within and think to myself like, wait, what are my favorite things? What do I think about? What do I want to consume? Which is going to be like the majority of my thoughts, my feelings, how I present myself. What's the type of content I read? What's the type of music I intake? What are the movies that I watch? What is the films that I watch? What are the, I don't know, quotes that stand out to me? Like there's so many things that you don't have to think about, especially I feel like in a relationship, you don't think about these things because they're already with you, they already like you for you. But when you are in a position of somebody asking you because they want to learn and it almost feels like an interview about yourself, I feel like that's when you start pondering about like how you want to present yourself. So anyways, that was a reason why I feel like I've been more thinking about my internal world and like what I truly like. And then the other reason was I have a group chat with my friends and we always send our own little reflections in there. And so whenever we're thinking about something within, we kind of bring it up to the group and we're like, okay, here's what I was thinking about. Here's my food for thought. And so I was telling my food for thought to my friends about like my reflections on being single and like what I've been thinking about for the past 2 months or whatever. And one of my friends said to me, she was like, I really love the way your brain thinks. Like, I feel like you're so good at reflecting. And again, such a great compliment, means so much to me. I feel like that's like my favorite compliment. But anyways, she was saying how like she doesn't spend that much time reflecting. And so like she doesn't even know what to reflect about because she doesn't spend that much time reflecting. And so I explained to her how I feel like doing a lot of journaling has helped me be able to verbalize or conceptualize my thoughts and my feelings, and how that was like a tip for her that I feel like she should do because it's just so helpful to me. And I feel like that's what made me be able to express myself so much better. So anyways, I've been doing some research on it, okay? And it says here, having a rich inner life means being in touch with your true self and the vast terrain of your hopes and dreams, thoughts, emotions, instinct, and intuition. So to me, I feel like that just means being connected to yourself and being really aware of everything that is going on inside at all times. I feel like it's also important to say that sometimes you may not be super connected to yourself, and that is fine. Doesn't mean that you don't have a rich inner world. It just means that you're not super connected to yourself. But we are going to talk about how you can make it more rich and just a nice place to be in. It's almost like your mind is its own little garden, and picturing like the flowers being what you think about, how you speak, the type of content you consume. I feel like I have such a mental image when I think of this. Like if you go into yourself and you think of like your happy place or your mind being your happy place and like what that garden would look like. Is there flowers planted? Is there a sunset? Is there a sunrise? Is the sun out? Is there a rainbow? Or is it like messy, dirty, overwhelmed, darkness? Like what does your inner world look like? I feel like that's also a fun little exercise to imagine like what your mind looks like if you were to draw it out. Okay, you guys, now we've reached the sponsored portion of today's video, which is Fiji water. With Black Friday and Cyber Monday coming up, I already know I'm going to be glued to my computer trying to get the finest deals, and that includes stocking up on the finest water, which is Fiji water. I'm so excited to have Fiji water as the sponsor of today's video, as Fiji water is the Earth's finest water, and it is the #1 premium imported bottled water brand in the US. That was a tongue twister. It has a perfectly balanced 7.7 pH, and unlike other top premium water bottle brands, Fiji water's electrolytes are 100% naturally occurring. If you guys want to take advantage of Black Friday and stock up on some Fiji water today for your next holiday party, or even just to stay hydrated at home, because I definitely know I will be during the winter season, definitely go to FijiWater.com. It's not just water, it's Fiji water. The reason why I think having your inner world be a place that you actually enjoy and that you would want to spend time in is because it really demonstrates the relationship you have with yourself. And not only that, but there's a quote that I found online somewhere that says that you have to enjoy spending time with yourself because you are the only one spending the most amount of time with yourself, and you are going to have to be with yourself from the day you are born till the day you die. I also feel that whatever emotions you are feeling and however you feel internally is the way that you radiate out into the world. So like what energy you have, what frequency you're giving off, and if it is a good place and it's a high vibrational place, then you may be more likely to be radiating love, peace, healing, just like overall great energy. I also feel like it is a form of intimacy with yourself that you don't need to seek outwardly, or you don't need to seek in anyone else. Like that relationship is purely yourself and only yours. I also feel like the more you spend time with yourself, the more that you can uncover different layers to yourself and have more depth to yourself, which I feel like makes you more interesting. And I mean, who wouldn't want that, honestly? So to get into it, I'm going to talk about a bunch of different ways that I think you can kind of embrace this side of yourself and spend more time with it. Which, #1, the first thing is just to embrace solitude. I feel like that's a given. I feel like I get the most amount of ideas, creativity, thoughts when I'm spending time alone and I'm not influenced by other people's opinions and ideas. And so when I am spending a lot of time outwardly being socializing with others, being with my friends, although that is my favorite, I definitely feel like I don't give myself that time to be with myself. And so that solitude is definitely needed, especially as someone like myself who I feel like is more ambiverted, like likes to be social but also likes that time alone. I feel like solitude is a very important time for me. I have spent a lot of time recently alone, as I've said, and I feel like it has made me so much more in touch with myself. I posted 2 of my solo traveling vlogs already on YouTube, and some of the comments that I got on those videos were like, wow, I feel like your personality is really shining through in this. I feel like you're really opening up and like being a little bit more transparent or whatever. And it's funny because my personality has always been the same, obviously, but when I'm by myself, it is true. Like you don't have anyone else to kind of form to or like even subconsciously adapt to and like their personality and like what they would talk about or what they like. And so you're just purely with yourself. Each one was kind of like a progression of me spending time alone. And each one people are saying that I'm more and more myself. I like that also people liked that version of me most and like made an effort to point it out and that they felt more connected to me in a way. So definitely spend some time alone. If you don't spend enough time alone, I feel like this could be a goal for yourself now that we are especially getting into winter and just kind of embracing the hermit vibe and just simply using this time for self-reflection, thinking, or simply being present. Speaking of being present, I feel like this is a perfect time to practice mindfulness, and literally doing meditation is like the exact definition of turning inwards into your inner world. One thing I wanted to say was I can definitely feel most connected to myself when I'm doing yoga or meditation because I'm so present in thinking about the way that I'm breathing, being conscious of the thoughts that I'm having, or even being conscious about the movement that I am doing, especially because every single part of it is so intentional. And I also think it's interesting, and I feel like this is the biggest part of meditation, is just observing what thoughts you have and like what sticks with you, what passes. And I feel like I've said this before, but when I was really into meditation, I feel like every time I would close my eyes, I would feel very like, okay, I'm here again, I'm with myself again. And it kind of felt like I was taking that extra effort to spend that time with myself. And it felt really good. It felt very comforting. Other times where I spend time alone and it feels very intentional and meaningful would be when I'm driving. I feel like obviously that's a very intentional act, as you're so hyper aware of your surroundings and where you're going, and you don't really have to think about anything, or you don't have to be anywhere. I love to listen to music that just like reflects the mood I'm in. And also I like doing a little bit of a self check-in with myself and seeing what my emotional state is like when I'm driving, because I'm not necessarily doing anything and I'm not distracted. So I can really be with myself and be like, okay, genuinely body scan, how am I feeling right now? And I feel like it's good to acknowledge that and just like take a look within and be like, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? Or like, what has been going on recently? And just kind of reflecting on that. Another time when I like to practice mindfulness and just like spending time alone is at coffee shops or sitting at a park, just sitting in the grass, maybe going on a walk. I love doing that. As well as even something like shopping, just something where you're kind of mindfully walking around. I also want to say hand in hand with spending meaningful time alone and intentional time alone is kind of taking the time to be a little bit more introspective. So for example, when I was on my Europe trip post breakup, I was taking the time to pull out my diary or my journal and kind of write about how I felt and about what I was thinking of, and just like how I felt traveling alone, thinking about why I was acting the way I was, or why I was choosing the choices I was choosing, or like, you know, just figuring out the why behind all of your actions and like what is motivating you to do something. I also feel like a different example for a time where I like to be introspective is like when I am making a career choice, or when I'm traveling somewhere, or when I'm wanting to be friends with people, or whenever I just like want anything in general, just thinking about the why behind those things and like seeing if it truly aligns with you. A while ago when I was going to a lot of fashion weeks, this thought would come to me a lot in 2022, but I would be going to different like fashion weeks and just being surrounded by so many new people. I feel like at fashion week, it's easy to get caught up in all the superficial things and like how you're being perceived. And I feel like I had to really think to myself, like, why am I doing this? What is the reason behind me wanting to be here? What are the benefits of me being here? Asking myself all those questions to be really intentional with my time and like just double checking if this is something that I like doing, if this is something that is worth my while, and just like taking that time, I feel like really got me more clear on my intentions and what I want to be doing moving forward. So for you, this may be if you are picking a new job, maybe asking yourself like, why do I want this job? What about this job is appealing to me? Or maybe if you're, I don't know, finding a new person that you want to date, or asking yourself like what you are searching for in a partner. Does this person have the qualities that I'm looking for? You can even pull out your own journal and ask yourself questions that are a little bit deeper and kind of go in depth with those questions to really get to know yourself. Like asking yourself what worries you most about the future? What are you truly scared of? Are you holding on to something that you need to let go of? What are your favorite qualities about yourself? What are your worst qualities about yourself? Just overall doing a little bit of self-reflection. I feel like that is so much fun. And I know I talk about shadow work a lot on my podcast, and shadow work is actually more going into the parts of ourselves that we've repressed or ignored. They could be things from your past that are like unpleasant, or just like, you know, things that trigger you or whatever, like bad things. But I feel like also self-reflection in a good way is also so important, and just asking yourself fun questions that maybe you don't get asked every day, but that can teach you more about yourself. I love the card games We're Not Really Strangers, and a lot of the times I feel like you have to wait for somebody to ask these questions to, but I think if you pull those questions yourself and ask those questions to yourself and do some journaling about that, that is like one of my favorite hobbies to do. And not only I feel like do you learn so much wisdom just uncovering things about yourself, but you get to know yourself really well, to the point where, like I was saying earlier, if someone was to ask you a question about yourself, you don't have to sit there and be like, honestly, I don't know, I've never thought about it, but you can actually give them like a well-rounded response because you have done the work to uncover those parts about yourself. The other benefit to being a little bit more introspective and taking the time to figure out your inner world is that you will gain so much self-awareness, which can actually help promote mental health and increase our happiness, which I love to hear. Not only can you improve your self-awareness, but you can also improve your emotional intelligence and self-regulation. So speaking of reflection, I kind of touched on it briefly, but that was my second point to developing a rich inner world. And this is kind of, I guess, the main part of it, but just engaging in deep reflection. A comment I get often is like, I really want to start journaling, but I don't know what to journal about. And for that, I would say day, you can write about the thoughts you've been having, dreams that you have for the future, or your literal dreams that you have at night. I feel like a lot of people have like dream journals, which I think is a great idea. And I've never done that, but I would love to start doing that. The other thing with keeping a dream journal is that if you have repeated dreams or you have dreams that for some reason feel like there's a significant part into it, you can do some research on like what that means in the dream world or what your subconscious is trying to tell you. I feel like this is kind of fun to do, and there's always some sort of like information online on what something means in a dream. And though it may not be 100% accurate, it's still fun to see if for some reason that aligns with your current situation in life. I know for a while, for some reason, I kept having a reoccurring dream of my teeth falling out. And first of all, that is so traumatizing. I don't even want to think about that feeling right now. But I remember searching it up, and it meant like that you were very overwhelmed or stressed or something like that. And it was just something that was like out of your control. And anyways, the fact that I had that reoccurring dream, and it kind of was pertaining to a situation that I was going through in real life, it was just very interesting. And I feel like that would have been a good moment of reflection. You can also write about your goals, and you can even do it in like a manifestation way, like kind of a scripting way where you're writing out what your dream life looks like, as well as the emotions you're feeling. And if you're having like new emotions or maybe experiences that are causing feelings you've never had before, or also just reflecting on the experiences that you've had in the past or the ones that you are currently going through and what they mean to you or how you think that they're causing a significance to your life. As I said, using something like the We're Not Really Strangers question deck can be a really good idea to ask yourself meaningful questions, but you can also look on Pinterest or on the internet or on like ChatGPT, challenging questions so that you have a variety and you don't just get bored asking the same questions, but actually think about some that you haven't thought about before, and that can be a little bit more difficult. Another thing that you can reflect on that I feel like I do often is just revisiting and rethinking about ideas. I feel like we all have had a situation in the past where we think about it and we kind of end that thought on being kind of like angry at someone or annoyed at someone, and then time passes and you go and revisit that thought again, and you're not angry at that situation anymore, but rather you're coming from like a place of understanding, or maybe you move on to like a place of resentment, or maybe you move on to a place of acceptance, or maybe of letting go. And so like I feel like you can have one situation that you think about and then revisit it in the future after time has passed and like you have grown as a human and you have different ways of seeing that situation or that experience. So I definitely feel like revisiting or reflecting on past thoughts or beliefs that you've had and like analyze how you've changed and how that has made you change your opinion or your outlook on those situations is really interesting and really, I feel like, telling of your growth. Another thing that you can self-reflect on is what you are grateful for or the people that you love in your life, or just overall actively thinking about the positive or working on being kind to yourself and others. I especially love making a gratitude list in the morning and at night, or when I'm on a trip, just taking the time to be grateful and like really being present. I feel like I've said this before, but there's times when I'm traveling and I have to tell myself like, really take this in right now. Look around you and be grateful for what you have, and thinking to myself like, why am I so grateful? What about this do I love so much? And just overall thinking about the positive things. There are so many different things that you can self-reflect on, and I really do feel like the more time you spend with yourself thinking about your motives behind everything and like your own feelings and your own thoughts, the more you will feel closer to yourself, the more you will feel like you have a better understanding of yourself. And I feel like such a classic and cliche scenario is like any person in their 20s being like, I need to go find myself. I need to go find what lights me up. But like, it's low-key true. And I feel like it is actually so much easier than people would think. And again, this is so cliche, so obvious, but it's like what you are searching for is never outside of you. And I definitely feel like I have had phases where I'm like wanting things or like wanting, I don't know, even to be friends with certain people or to go to certain places, to be invited to certain things. You want certain milestones, you want certain accomplishments. And instead of wanting things, just like figuring out within yourself, like, why do I want these things? Are these things even true to my actual desires? Or just figuring out that, I feel like, will get you closest to yourself and figuring out who it is that you really are and what you really want to do. Now that we've talked about getting to know ourselves, spending time with ourselves, and all of that self-reflection stuff, I feel like a big thing with your inner world is the content that you actually consume and what you're actually intaking. So not just the stuff that's already within you, but what you are feeding your mind intellectually. So the third thing is engaging in daily learning. I feel like I especially prioritize this because I'm not in school and because my job or the way that I choose to do my career, which is like this podcast or whatever, I almost feel a little bit imposter syndrome sometimes, and I feel the need to go out of my way to learn on my own so that I feel like I'm saying stuff with substance, which I feel like makes sense. It's not out of left field, as someone would say. I don't know who that somebody is, but you know what I mean? I feel like I'm constantly thinking about how I can learn more outside of just what I do on the day-to-day basis because I'm not being told by somebody what I need to learn or what I need to do research on or what I need to read. So this is something that I definitely practice in, but I feel like this is a good reminder for others around me. I feel like if you're in school, you're already learning, but like if you're already working or you've kind of forgot to do that self-studying, I feel like it's important to remind yourself that it's so important to feed your mind, especially because the older that we get, you have to be the one independently choosing to go out of your way to do this. And nobody's going to force you to learn anything. Nobody's going to force you to pick up a book. Nobody's going to force you to pick up a new hobby or to read about something or to do your own research. Nobody's going to tell you what to do. But I'm telling you, if you want to be a more interesting person and have that rich inner world, you got to do the work yourself. And sometimes I feel like I sound even corny saying it, but like one of my favorite hobbies is genuinely researching topics that I feel interested myself or learning by myself. And again, I don't know why I feel the need to say it's corny. I feel like it's that imposter syndrome again, or like I feel like sometimes it sounds pretentious, even though I don't mean it to be like that. And that's actually something that I enjoy doing, but maybe that's my own projection. Moral of the story, engaging in daily learning. I'm going to tell you how you can do that, how I do that, and some good ideas for you. So the number one thing is to read widely, exploring a variety of different books. This could be from fiction to philosophy to history, just a bunch of different topics. I definitely think also a good reminder is to read stuff that you don't normally read. I feel like I read a lot of books on self-help and like psychology, I guess, just because that is the topic that interests me, and it goes hand in hand with the kind of episodes that I do and, you know, the kind of topics I discuss. But it would probably be helpful for me to read about topics that I don't normally read, like history or maybe geography or maybe biographies, just like different topics or even fiction books, just so that you don't kind of get stuck in a bubble of like the things that you know, and you're constantly feeding your mind new stuff that makes you think in different ways and gives you new ideas and makes you learn new things. But overall, I mean, it's not a surprise, it's not news, but reading expands your mind and introduces you to different perspectives and ways of thinking. And I think something that's really interesting that me and my friend recently talked about was we were reading a book, and it was like a psychology-based book, I guess, and my friend was saying how she didn't 100% enjoy reading it because she like didn't really agree with the writer or how they were expressing themselves. And I think we came to the conclusion that even if you don't agree 100% with what the author is saying, I feel like it's even interesting to read something different just so that you can even form your own opinion on it, whether it's good or bad. And at the end of the day, knowledge is power. So even if you don't agree with it 100%, it's interesting to know different point of views and, you know, what people are even saying out there or what knowledge there is out there. There are so many good books and so many classics. I feel like I definitely want to read more classics, and even reading books that pertain to like what life lesson you're going through, I feel like could be really interesting, since they might talk about feelings that you're literally feeling, but in words that you haven't been able to verbalize, which I think could be super cool. And is another reason why I feel like music and film is just such an art form, because it makes you feel seen in a way that you couldn't quite express yourself in. So anyways, I definitely need to pick up some more books. This is so random, but I just got the biography of Britney Spears for my birthday, and I'm actually really intrigued on reading that because I heard it's actually really good, but that should be interesting. I also have said this before, but I find philosophy really interesting, and I want to read more books on philosophy, but I feel like I need to figure out which ones are like the basics or whatever. But yeah, anyways, I need to pick up some more books. The other way that you can learn daily is by researching topics of interest. Again, I've said this before, but one of my favorite things to do is literally to talk to ChatGPT. And I feel like it's such a good way to learn, because like if something strikes my mind and I have a thought about it, I have questions about it, I'll like ask Chat and then it'll give me a whole response, and then that'll prompt another question in my head, and then I'll ask another question, and it's like you just keep going back and forth, just like like learning more and more and more about like any topic that you're interested in. I definitely did this a lot while I was solo traveling. You know, when you go to a museum and you get those earphones and it'll like talk to you and tell you the history about wherever you are? That's kind of how I felt when I was solo traveling. I was like talking to chat, listening to its replies, and just like, you know, exploring the city while also learning something in my head. But moral of the story is any topic that interests you, do some research on it, learn more about it. You could be the cool friend that randomly has fun facts about it. And honestly, I really miss back in the day when I was in elementary school or like middle school, when we'd have to do presentations and PowerPoints on like your own topic. Like I remember randomly doing a presentation on like orangutans. So random, but like I low-key miss making PowerPoints for random things, and I kind of want to do that right now. Like just picking a topic, doing your own research on it, and then like presenting it out or writing notes. I actually went to a little Asian store the other day and bought a bunch of like stationery and pens and notebooks, and I was actually taking notes on a book that I was reading and kind of doing the like annotation for it. And I feel like that was super interesting as well, especially because I'm someone who I feel like retains knowledge a lot better when I'm writing it down or when I'm reading it and reciting it and speaking about it rather than just like hearing it once. So that is definitely fun for me. And like I said, because I'm not in school, I feel like you have the urge to like just write stuff down and like research stuff. So I definitely think it's fun to like go to even a coffee shop, maybe watch a documentary, take some notes, watch a movie, take some notes, read a book, take some notes, just doing that research for yourself and learning about any topic that fascinates you. The other thing you can do is listen to thought-provoking content. So this could be watching a documentary or watching think pieces. I know YouTube has a bunch of like video essays that you can watch, which are really interesting. It's just like people reflecting. I honestly feel like even my own podcast sometimes is like a think piece, like some of my episodes. Just content that makes you think. Even TikToks, I feel like they have really interesting takes sometimes, and I'll like save them for later to listen to. Or you can even listen to audiobooks. I've been loving doing that. There's a whole bunch of free audiobooks on Spotify. I also love getting inspiration and learning more through different outlets such as like Pinterest or Substack. That has been a recent favorite of mine. And just like reading other people's reflections, I feel like are great think pieces because it makes you think from a different perspective and also just kind of reflect on stuff that you haven't reflected before, or maybe people have made essays or blogs on topics that you're currently going through and just someone that has already been through it, which I feel like is really interesting. I also think another way you can learn is by watching movies or watching films, and not only watching movies that are just kind of silly and goofy, but things that actually make you think. I really want to start doing this more often because that is one of those things where if someone asks me what my favorite movie is, I honestly don't watch movies enough to be able to have great taste, and I feel like it's something that I want to have good taste in. So I definitely want to consume higher quality content in terms of like books and movies and things that are widely read. So if someone brings it up, I don't have to always be like, no, I haven't seen that or I haven't read that. And rather I have an opinion on it and I've actually taken the time to intake that quality content. The next thing that you can do, which isn't necessarily about learning, but it is about exploring creative outlets and different hobbies. So figuring out what you like and what internally makes you excited and motivated and feel creative, and just where you feel that you can place your creative energy into. For me, I feel like my favorite forms of creativity are obviously filming and making videos, and even making these kind of like video podcasts. I actually have a full episode on ways to be more creative, and that is one of my favorite episodes I've filmed. So definitely watch that video if you want to be more creative yourself. But some other ideas for you is to write, whether that is like poetry or even making music or making a blog. I actually tried doing this the other day with Substack, and I thought to myself, like, I've always wanted to blog, but I feel kind of awkward because like I haven't been in an English class in so long, and I just don't know if I'd be that good at it. But expressing myself verbally is something that I'm really comfortable with now. So I just kind of tried it, and honestly, it went a lot better than I thought it would, and it's something that I want to get better at. So I definitely think that is a new hobby of mine that I might, dabble into and try to explore more. You can also try painting or engaging in hobbies such as cooking, baking. Those are two of my favorites. Maybe picking up crochet or knitting, maybe starting a dance class. I really want to go rock climbing. I feel like that's a big thing that I've been talking about for a long time, but I keep having acrylic nails, so I haven't been able to fulfill that hobby need yet, but that's something I want to do. Another thing that I think can be a great idea if you are trying to foster this inner world is creating content that is just for you and not for other people. For example, like I said, when I was making this blog on Substack, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to post it, and the reason for that that was so that I didn't have to think about how other people would perceive it and just truly make it as authentic and genuine as I could. And I feel like that was very freeing, as well as even if you're just writing in your diary or maybe making art, it can just be for you without the pressure to make it for somebody else or having it be a certain way. Overall, just creating art for yourself and not to impress others. Another hobby that I love to do, which I feel like goes hand in hand with this kind of self-reflecting and, understanding yourself better, is like getting into horoscopes and tarot card readings and all those personality tests. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but I personally love that shit. Any personality test type of thing is just like my favorite thing ever. Even if you don't 100% align with it, I feel like it's just fun to test it out and see what it says about you. And then once you have like all of these different forms of like self-diagnosis, like seeing what the common themes are through all of them, because I feel like they're actually super accurate. Sometimes I want to like downplay how much I like those things, but I like love them. Just any sort of ritual that is for deeper understanding, I'm all over it. Now, at the end of the day, I want to say that creating a happy inner life, a rich inner life, is all about feeding yourself happy thoughts, happy content. And with that, I feel like it's just surrounding yourself with happy people that share those similar like-minded mindsets, because they will always pull you out of a slump and they will inspire you to be better and to think better and to just feel better overall, as well as treating yourself with respect and boundaries and just like doing the proper healthy habits that make you have those happy thoughts in the first place. Like for me, that is being in a clean environment or engaging in hobbies that I like, being with people that I like, working out, eating healthy, feeling accomplished by actually achieving my goals and doing what I say I'm going to do. Just like doing all of the right things that end up for a happy mind. Like if you do all the right things, it's really hard to slip into negative mindsets. And I feel like that is the most important thing. And, with my podcast, A Better You, that's kind of what the goal is here. So honestly, all my episodes kind of have that overarching theme of like taking care of yourself and having that self-love. And overall, honestly, just romanticizing your life, because all of that put together just leads to a happy person with like a lot to talk about and a lot to offer and just like such a rich inner world. Which is to say also, I'm not saying that if you don't spend time on this, you don't have a rich inner world. Obviously, everyone has one, but I feel like uncovering it and being self-aware of it and then being able to express it is like such a cool trait to have and such a fun trait to understand yourself. Another reminder for you is to just enjoy the small things and to stop waiting to be happy. Maybe waiting till you graduate, waiting till you get that friend, waiting till you get that partner, waiting until you get that milestone, and just reminding yourself that happiness is a daily practice. It's a daily choice, and you can be just as happy making your daily coffee in that morning, listening to your favorite song, seeing your friends smile, maybe seeing your favorite dog. Like there's just so many little ways on how you can increase your happiness and how that joy comes out of you. And it's not necessarily all these big moments, but rather the collection of tiny moments that happen day to day. I wrote down some people that I believe have a very rich inner world that is very obvious to me. Again, I want to point out the obvious part of that because of course everyone has it, but these are the people that really stand out to me. And I'm not going to say their names, but I'm just going to kind of discuss them. There's 3 people that come to mind when I think of this. And I feel like each of these 3 people are very in tune with what they like and their own emotions and their own thoughts and their own feelings. They all take the time to do that self-reflection, and they all have very creative outlets, and they all kind of embrace who they are individually. Like when I think about these 3 different people, they all have very different aesthetics and very different ways to present themselves, but it's all so uniquely theirs. And there's so much intent behind why they are the way they are and why they present themselves the way they present themselves. And it kind of makes you wonder and question and be curious about them because it seems like they've got so much going on. And that so much comes from the hobbies they have, from the content they consume, from their perspective, maybe the experiences they have, what they do in their free time. And just, I feel like they all just seem to very foster who they are as an individual and have a very clear understanding of who they are internally. So anyways, those are common traits, I feel like, of these people that I'm describing that I feel have a very deep inner world. And they inspire me to be more like that. And I feel like inspire me to be more intentional and to be more caring about my inner world, and also inspire me to show it off because everyone's inner world is so interesting, and it makes me curious to learn about other people's inner world, especially when they don't do social media or something where they have it so transparent on the internet. Does that make sense? Like people that don't have it so obviously upfront, it makes me question and wonder about theirs and their layers and their depth. I'm gonna kind of end it off here. I guess this episode in general was kind of a thought piece and just kind of speaking from a place of inspiration and something that I'm currently, I guess, learning and navigating as I'm in this single era of my life and I have so much time to pour into myself, which is exactly what I wanted. I guess to end off this episode, I just want to say that while it is so important to be introspective and to self-reflect, I think there's also a healthy balance. And as I had written down here, you can use your inner reflections to fuel meaningful actions and connection in your outer life. And that is, I think, what is most important. Just knowing that everything that you have inside, you can reflect outwardly and people can feel that energy. People can feel the presence that you bring to a room. And at the end of the day, building a rich inner life is a lifelong journey. And as it says online here, it is about becoming more attuned to your inner landscape, finding beauty in your thoughts, and nurturing your imagination and creativity. The more you practice self-reflection and engage in enriching activities, the more your inner world will grow and evolve. Mic drop, period. I wish I could find the the citation to that. I just literally searched that up on Google about what it means to build a rich inner life, and that's the definition I found there. So anyways, that's what I found there. You kind of, through this episode, found out what it means to me, and I hope this video inspired you. So anyways, I love you, and I will talk to you later.